I don't know if you guys remember this lady. I covered her when she gave a sermon recently in favor of Jezebel, saying that she was her hero in the Bible. If you don't know the biblical narrative, Jezebel is a bad person. She's bad, 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 and she is. Well, okay. So this is the Reverend Deborah McKnight. She's the founder of Urban Abbey, which is a coffee house bookstore ministry, and this is where she preaches. And so I read this article mostly yesterday, and I thought this would be a helpful exercise in us deciding how it is that it's important, what helpful discourse, what helpful behavior is there with progressives that are nuts? Like when they've gotten to the point of talking about the virtues of Jezebel in what's ostensibly a church environment, claiming to be a representative of Christianity. What's there to be done about people like this? Do you ignore them? Do you confront them? If so, how? This story is about a man who decided to be confrontational. In Omaha, Urban Abbey, the coffee house bookstore ministry nestled in Omaha's Old Market neighborhood, is packed. This is the definition of packed here, by the way. Here, let's see. That's packed. I see about 50 or 60 people. Okay, but it's packed. It's Festive Sweater Sunday on the second week of Advent with a variety of holiday-related tops as well as a few Christmassy hats along 100 plus in the congregation. But Deborah McKnight, the founding pastor, was ready for more visitors. Someone might come in and say, "What the bleep is happening in this coffee shop?" She gave those gathered advice on welcoming any newcomers who might enter the door. "Smile at them, but not too much," McKnight said. "Be cool." That's actually not bad advice. There are a lot of churches that hey, thanks, daughter.
You're welcome.
A lot of churches that get a little weird with new people. Don't be weird. The festive holiday atmosphere at Urban Abbey, which was founded 13 years ago, was almost derailed this year by a Grinch. A visitor kept coming to services and making quiet commotion, beginning with clicking his pen and shuffling papers and annoying those around him. There wasn't any obviously bad behavior, but it was a clearly negative presence, McKnight said. Week by week, he would try to engage McKnight in a public argument during services or talk sessions. She invited him to make an appointment to talk with her privately, but he would never follow through. You just bring different energy if you're here to participate versus if you're here because you want to catch someone, to have an I gotcha moment, to be hostile, to be tricky, McKnight said. At one point, he even told a neighbor in the Old Market area that he was going to have the female pastor defrocked. When the neighbors said they didn't think that was the procedure for United Methodists, he replied, "It's kind of up to me." McKnight became increasingly worried about the visitor and recruited her husband to keep an eye on him whenever the man was in the building. During Urban Abbey's services to commemorate National Coming Out Day, he loudly heckled speakers who were sharing their stories. It was at that point that McKnight kicked him out of the coffee house. "I didn't want his loud hostility towards it to impact the rest of the room," she said. Part of being a safe church is also having to make boundaries. Ever since it opened up in 2011, Urban Abbey has strived to be a welcoming and safe place for the LGBTQ population in Omaha. So let's camp out there for a minute, because if you know me at all, you know that I am very unsympathetic with McKnight and people like her. I think what they're preaching is a false gospel, and I think they're giving false hope to those who are dead in their sins. I think in the name of Christ, they are leading people astray, and it's abominable what she and other churches like hers are doing, which is increasingly normal in the United Methodist Church, and people like her definitely won control of the UMC, which is why folks like I had to leave. Folks like me, not folks like I know how to speak. Even so, if these churches are abominable and speakers like her are abominable, then is the proper response infiltrating and trolling? That's what I would define. I don't think she's lying. I'm sure a gentleman did behave in such a way. Maybe there's more nuance or texture to it, but I'm sure that someone did find the time and energy to start attending this unholy church with an unholy pastor, making unholy disciples, and to kind of gum up the works. Is this a good use of our time, energy, emotions? And I say this as a person who's very much been seen as a troll by the United Methodist Church. There are a lot of leaders that have thought, man, he's just trying to play a role very much like this Grinch that they had, where they've got a good thing going and somebody's just got to speak against it. And the thing is, I do think there's a role not just for building up, but for tearing down. And so I don't want to cast aspersions at this guy, but I do think it's important to meditate on this question of, in this age of such confusion, where there are people who are in the name of Christ winning people to the devil, is there a role for people to show up at those places, to go into the heart of the darkness, into the heart of the beast, and just mess with people, mess with the leaders, ruin the environment? Yeah, this is the question I'm asking as I go through this article. I'll read a little bit more of it, and then I'll look at what you guys have to say. The man returned weeks later for Me Too services. So you'll see there have worship centered around LGBTQ stuff and then Me Too stuff. So this is, would you be wrong to see this as an extension of the far left wing of the Democrat Party? Probably not. So they had Me Too services, and he heckled McKnight as she was telling her story of sexual harassment. He objected to my sermon strongly. He kept pushing, she recalled. The man reached into his pocket, and fearing the worst, her husband got in between them, only to discover he was reaching for his phone, starting to videotape the service. If he posted this online, if anybody has it, would you send me the link? I would just be interested. Quote, I'm guessing he didn't get anything fascinating because he hasn't used it. Oh, I guess I forgot that. McKnight said she has feared for her safety and those at the services. See, this is one of the things that I think is unhelpful about a lot of progressives, is just the melodrama. Oh, this person is being unpleasant. They must be violent. They're one of these far-right people I've been told to worry about. We never know when the words are going to become actions, she said. And this is what justifies controlled speech condition. This is what people believe who want to restrict free speech. They say, there's a point where speech becomes actions, so just nip it in the bud. Don't let them say the things. McKnight ultimately banned the man from stepping foot into Urban Abbey. Law enforcement officials have watched the entrance to make sure he didn't return. This is, sometimes pastors really do have to consider putting somebody at the door. Early Christians, deacons were known to be essentially bouncers at the door and not let in uninitiated people. She laughs now that she made the decision while wearing the costume of Glinda, the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz. That's a whole other thing, man. Pastors that dress up in costume, I just think, how on earth are you supposed to take this person seriously? There are conservative pastors, supposedly, who do this stuff. That just drives me nuts. I'm sure he's having trouble accepting boundaries, especially from a woman, McKnight said. So, yeah, this guy has a problem with far left stuff, so he must be a sexist as well. The man, she said, is a member of another United Methodist Church in Omaha, where the previous pastor was in favor of disaffiliation and leaving the denomination. Quote, he was using the Abbey as a talking point and creating hostility. The church voted to remain United Methodist. I guess the church that guy came from. She suspects he's also behind an online harassment through social media and a separate website that criticizes her actions and that of the church. McKnight used the harassment to benefit the Abbey in a fundraising campaign called Let It Go. Because of your presence in person and online, we were able to raise $7,000 from 90 plus people, she imagined writing him in a letter. We couldn't have done it without you. See, I'm just appalled by this lady. The fact that she thinks so many of these things are acceptable, as a Christian leader and as a Christian and as an adult, the level of snark, the level of passive aggressiveness is just, I'm glad I don't know many adults like this. The Abbey staff and McKnight even turned the online hate into a positive. Quote, we made funny memes out of all their hateful comments, she said with a laugh. That's my stance on dealing with difficult people. Funny memes and a fundraiser. Urban Abbey also faced a challenge from another person who objected to its drag queen story hour, even though it had not had the event for a year after bomb threats and personal threats against McKnight. Although she wishes the event would return, it is on hold for now. Nationally, the temperature is too high, she said. I don't feel like we need to go any further than that. Once you're talking about drag queen story hours, this is something that intentionally targets kids to groom them. It's very flagrantly trying to reprogram children and make them ambivalent to moral sexual deviancy. I can't believe we stand at a point in history where, I mean, this is, I know people who are card carrying leftists of the 1960s that I warned years ago saying, hey, it's going this direction. And they would say, no, we're never going to make this normal. But more and more, not just bookstores, but churches are making themselves platforms for the inculcation of children in sexual immorality and deviancy. This is something that is just appalling that a leader in the United Methodist Church could do and not get in any trouble at all, and then have these puff pieces posted about them valorizing her rather than showing how ridiculous and sad all this has become. Now, that said, do I think this Grinch guy was in the right? I think what you believe about these people matters. Yeah, I guess I thought I would, after reading through this and talking through it a little bit, that I would have a clear, my knee-jerk reaction is just like, dude, don't waste your time. Don't go in there and make things worse. Just, they're dead to us, move along. But, I think it's a hateful thing to move along and have nothing to say about anybody and not have any interaction with them. It's, in a lot of ways, the most loving thing you can do to engage somebody. Now, is trolling a good way? Clicking your pen and just annoying people, is that a good thing to do? No. But if there's serious engagement and if there is an appeal to the people present to question what is being said, I think that's good. But would practicing the golden rule, would I want someone with that clarity coming into my church and disrupting with my people? The answer is no, not really. I don't think that would be helpful. So I guess I'm kind of undecided about this. While I sympathize with this Grinch guy, I kind of wish that we could just separate for a bit and leave each other alone. But then also I see that as a defeat of free speech and a defeat of Christian love. So I'm conflicted about it. I'm interested in your responses. So I guess at this point I'll turn to the comments and see if anybody had any responses to this.